The arguments for nuclear, particularly as Boris Johnson wants to pursue net zero, that this is a form of energy that does not emit carbon dioxide. I get it. I get the fact that it's reliable in the sense that it produces energy 24/7, 365 days a year. I get and I understand all of that. I also understand the extent to which we've run down the stock of nuclear power stations in this country. But when you see in that small Ukrainian town of Zaporizhzhia, I think that's the right pronunciation, but the biggest nuclear plant in Europe, and there were Russian artillery and tanks shelling a nuclear power station, warnings coming out of the Ukrainian government that this could be many times worse than Chernobyl. I mean, when I saw those images, Malcolm, they were absolutely horrifying. And yet, doesn't that warn us in some ways that nuclear power stations can be vulnerable?
But to take the specifics of what we believe has happened in Zaporizhzhia, those photographs, those images you've just seen, it seems fairly clear that the reactors were behind the cameraman, and the images were of the Russian troops trying to take the plant. My own reading is that since the Russians were sweeping northwards towards Kiev, which is about 350 miles from the plant, they simply had to take control of the plant, whatever it had been. And it does seem that that what they were doing there was clearly not designed to cause a nuclear incident, but it was a military operation to take control of the plant. And they are extremely robust, these stations. All of the measuring in the area there has shown that there's no change in activity. That's the specifics. More generally, of course, any type of infrastructure can't really be designed against someone who desperately wants to destroy it. We have learned from Fukushima and actually from Chernobyl as well that despite some of the press comments at the time, the actual health effects from those have been much less than, say, a chemical disaster like we saw at Bhopal in 1984, or a hydro dam going wrong like we saw in China in the 70s. But nonetheless, any installation should be run safely, and if caught in a war zone, it's something that's of concern. So far, I think these plants have shown the robustness that they're known for, but it would be really a very good thing if the International Atomic Energy Agency were allowed in, just to ensure that operation is being carried out safely.
Yeah. And of course, Chernobyl, you just mentioned, but Chernobyl back in the news again today, potentially going to run out of energy to keep the plant going and keep the plant cool. But the point I'm making, Malcolm, is I understand the arguments for nuclear energy. I think we'd be mad not to start investing in this. But you do understand, don't you, why people, when they see what happened back in the 80s in Chernobyl, when they listen to the difficulties of dealing with nuclear waste, if the nuclear industry in this country is going to become something that there is a general big level of confidence in, it's got some big PR to do, hasn't it?
Yes, I agree. And nobody's going to pretend that nuclear power is problem-free, apart from what you've talked about. They're extremely expensive to build, which doesn't sit well within a market approach to electricity. So it has its challenges. But equivalently, this isn't one of these things that you would do if it was an enormous executive toy. If we're not doing nuclear, we're doing something else, which also, as we've tragically seen over the last fortnight, can have very severe security implications in a military sense, as well as in an energy sense. The actual record of nuclear power over the 70 years since we've been using it is utterly extraordinary. Millions of lives saved by reducing the emissions from coal-fired stations, which we know are dangerous. Not carbon I'm talking about here, and that's another angle, but the sulfur emissions, the emissions that cause asthma and the like. But like anything else in life, we need to recognise that it has challenges and we need to address those challenges. So far, we've been very good at that, but we need to continue doing that. And after what we've seen in the last fortnight, undoubtedly, in some areas of the world, we need to be looking at the potential of stepping up some of those security measures. But it does come back that despite all of what's gone on, the plants are still operating safely at this moment.